The easy way to get the Arts Council visa is to go in under the Promise route as opposed to the Talent route. And Promise should, in theory, be based on the stage of your career rather than just your age. So you don't necessarily have to be in your early 20s. I've applied for applicants in their 50s under the Promise route, where it's been, for example, a second career. Now, the longer you wait, the greater the expectation. Insofar as the longer you wait from the point that you've started producing art, the greater the expectation. Now, the guidance itself says for exceptional talent, we would expect to see a substantial professional track record on your CV from at least the last 5 years, and for exceptional promise from at least the last 3 years. So 3 years is the minimum, but you don't want to go past the 5-year mark if possible. In other words, you want to make an application before you hit the 5-year stage, ideally. Otherwise, you could be in a position where you're forced to meet the higher criteria under the Arts Council. They'll hold you to the higher standard. And the test for promise is as follows, which you may have seen already. I'll just go through the elements and tell you which are the easier ones. An applicant who's evidencing exceptional promise in their field must provide at least 2 of the following. So the first one is evidence from at least one country of at least 2 examples of recent media recognition. And the second is winning an international award of excellence or getting a nomination for one. And then the third one is proof of professional appearances, performances, publications, or exhibitions in your field from at least one country. Now, the easiest ones are, in fact, the first 2. You might think, looking at that the harder one or the hardest one is the International Award for Excellence. No, not in my experience. Now, the reason I say that is that there's certain defined awards where you get the Arts Council visa automatically, but an International Award of Excellence is a broad term. So it leaves it open to you to argue that a particular award you've received, maybe for a competition or in many different contexts, was, quote, an International Award for Excellence. And often if you ask the people who run the competition, would you describe this as an International Award of Excellence? It's quite rare in my experience they'll say no. Now, of course, there is such a thing as a local award or quite parochial awards, but maybe in significance, it might have a broader significance and broader international significance. So it's a very broad term, which you can leverage in your favor. And really, as an artist looking to come in under this route, whether you're going for promise or talent, I do applications under both, whether you're doing one or the other, you should systematically be applying for awards or prompting people to nominate you for awards. Usually, of course, there's some activity on your part. You have to at least express the desire to win an award. These things aren't going to happen by themselves. Now, awards, of course, I'm referring to arm's length awards. There's certain awards where you have to make an application. Others where they'll approach you gratuitously just on the basis of your reputation. The latter is very rare, right? So you need to be proactive. But going through the award route is the easiest one, combined with the first limb, which is media recognition. And the 2 could be combined. In fact, you could have 3 documents. You could have one of the references could be in connection with the award being given and describing, this is a third party describing why it is, in their view, an International Award of Excellence. Number 2, the media recognition could be you having published the fact that you've got that award, or rather a publication referencing the fact that you've secured the award. So just to confirm, that would need to be from a third party. You can do some self-publication, but the media recognition ideally comes from a third party. And that way you've got the award itself, you've got the media recognition, and then you've got a reference. So those 3 all stemming from the award, but hitting the 2 criteria. That way you just need one more bit of media recognition and you're through. So it is, one shouldn't underestimate how difficult it is to get this award. It is hard, but the easy way to do it is to find that sweet spot where you can get in under the promise criteria, if at all possible. However old you are, or whatever your age is, that applies, as I say. Don't think that the promise route is only for people in their early 20s, just on the basis that you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. No, you could still secure the promise route on the basis of my experience with my clients, having pivoted from one area or one career into another, which of course in our day is increasingly common, that people have second careers and move into the arts from a different field. The other point I was just going to make on doing this the easy way, or taking the pathway of least resistance when going for the Arts Council visa, is your choice of area. Now, I've put together this table here, which I'll scroll through. The areas in green are those that are eligible, those in red are ineligible. Now, just a couple of points. There's some areas where you might have to force yourself into a particular box where maybe you're quite multidisciplinary, but it's best to kind of pin your colors to the mast, in the sense that, look, if you do both writing and art, for example, as in visual arts, let's say, then you'd want to go for one or the other, in my experience. But likewise, you'd want to just double check that it is in fact eligible. Songwriters, for example, you'd want to, or singer-songwriters, you might want to pick which it is that you're going for. And also in connection with writing, there's a distinction. Basically, in the Arts Council guidance, they've had to say, what is art? So, of course, it's a philosophical discussion, but they've actually had to say, well, no, this is art and this isn't art. So they say, for example, that long-form journalism is not art, right? You might say, well, what about Hunter S. Thompson? But, but they're very specific about that, and there's some clearly excluded areas. Theatre, for example, competitive dance is not included. Museums and galleries, they have clear distinctions there. And a common one is photography. What's arts photography versus commercial photography? And it's a bit of an invidious situation in some cases, because often people have to do commercial work or non-artistic work in a specific area in order to fund their arts, but then that commercial work is excluded. So double check how you're putting it. Especially, I've had clients who have been conceptual artists, and I've acted for people who are multidisciplinary. So best to be very clear about how you're putting your application. I don't want to do an injustice to your particular discipline if that would do kind of violence, if you like, to your art, if it does in fact cross over different disciplines. But I have seen people being too vague or putting in just too much into the application, and then it loses focus. So I hope that's helpful in highlighting what the pathway of least resistance is for the Arts Council visa, and the easy way, if you like, to get the Arts Council visa. I have a consultation service. I'd be very happy to speak with you. I've helped many people with the application. You can get me on the link below and schedule a time to speak. Thanks. Bye for now.